They claimed the land by flying over it and dropping boxes of swastikas all over the ground.
Such a dumb thing to do.
So some animals were probably getting railed by fucking flying swastikas. The only thing I'm worried about, like the penguins, dude. Like, I was hoping no penguins were injured by their nonsense, because that would just make me hate them even more, even though apparently I'm a quote-unquote sympathizer. I would hate them even more if penguins are getting murdered in mass because of flying swastikas through the air to mark their alleged territory down there.
Maybe he got a little too cozy with some of these birds.
Only explanation I have in where a Fiat Uno could keep up with a Mercedes S280, okay?
It's not that I wouldn't fight Mothman. I would beat the shit out of him.
We're seasoned.
So wait, you mean to tell me they have a festival commemorating the day a man got his shit rocked by an extraterrestrial carrot?
My neighbors across the street, they are not real.
But a pyramid is the most boring shape.
Part Sasquatch, part trickster midget. What's going on, guys? Thank you for joining us in the Conspiracy Kitchen, where we uncover the secret ingredients behind life's daily mysteries. I'm your head chef, Joe, and I'm accompanied by my sous chef, Josh.
Hi, everybody.
And before we start this episode, I just got a little disclaimer, I guess we could say. I got some messages about our last episode that we are apparently Nazi sympathizers, and I just want to say that's couldn't be farther from the truth. I mean, I don't know when in that episode we said we were. I just find the occult interesting. That doesn't mean I like the occult or I think it's good in any way. So it just blew my mind that I got a couple messages like that. Actually, I had to block someone. So yeah, it's just an interesting part of history, and we never agreed to saying we're going to be part of the occult or anything like that. So that I don't know where that came from.
We made fun of the Nazis for an hour and a half. They talk about ice moons hitting Earth. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, it's not an interesting topic. It is. It's a very interesting topic. I enjoyed researching this. There's so many specials on, History Channel and all that shit. I'll watch it whenever it's on. It's very interesting shit. However, when it comes to Nazis, especially after last episode, I think they are some of the dumbest people ever.
But are they?
Yes.
In some ways they are. And I guess History Channel is also Nazi sympathizers. And I guess we're going to get called it again because guess what tonight's episode is? We're going into some Nazi technology. We want to talk about some Nazi tech, secret bases, and did Hitler really kill himself in that bunker that night? And that could be a whole other episode, but I think we're going to touch on it because it's still part of the technology and their secret bases. So I guess we're going to get yelled at again, but it is what it is. They had some interesting weapons, and without the Nazis, even though they're pieces of shit, our space program would not be what it is today. I mean, maybe we still wouldn't have went to the moon, but I don't think we would have been there at the time we did. I don't think we would have. There's no way.
No, definitely not. There was so many different weapons in production and crafts in production that didn't go all the way for the most part. A lot of the prototype planes and shit that were found.
Yeah. Shit tons, dude. All kinds of they were willing to take risks, and that's I think a big part of it. But another part of it might have been the Black Forest UFO crash in 1936. I think this was a big stepping stone for them. They found this UFO crashed. There's residents around the area, and I think it's Freiburg, Germany. In the summer, they saw a fiery streak across the sky, and they heard a crash, explosion, and the SS quickly secured the area. Now, in SS reports that were found, the descriptions of the tree singe and everything else. A lot of the descriptions of this crash matched the Rendlesham UFO crash that we did a couple episodes ago. Mm-hmm. So that's, so we get some connections here. So is it the same type of thing, a UFO? So what we got here is that apparently the SS snatched it up, took the wreckage. They took it back to Weevelsburg Castle. We all know Weevelsburg from last episode. That's the Occult Central, right? That's their little clubhouse.
That's where the party was.
That's where the party was. And presumably they began to try to reverse engineer this craft. This is what I believe led to their huge advancement in technology in the time, because no one else was close to this. No one. We had nothing like this. They had, like, just off the top, I mean, the V2 rocket and the V1 rockets were way ahead of their time. The first ballistic missiles. We didn't have anything like this.
No, we did. And it also would kind of make sense that they had some alien help, so to speak, because, if you remember from last episode, they focused solely on pseudoscience and shit that they made up. So if you're coming up with all this advanced technology, you didn't get there on your own. You were too dumb. Too dumb to find it because you didn't have, modern science because you thought it
wasn't in the Germania.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the Germania. They weren't doing it.
No.
Or, I mean, it could have been. They had some brilliant scientists. I'll say that, though. But, I mean, brilliantly stupid, I guess. The scientists might not have been into the occult either. They just got forced into the bullshit, I guess, and you either do it or you die. So they had, the Nazis themselves were pretty smooth-brained, but the scientists behind them, I guess they had some very advanced scientists, and they were willing to throw the money, like what I mean, like they wanted to advance, they needed to advance their military, and they were willing to throw the money at it. And being a dictatorship as it is, it's just what Hitler says, boom, fund it. It's not like over here we have to go through Congress approvals and all this to get funds sent to certain things. And, well, this is the same here, too. They were building them to kill people. But, if you have a great technology and you're trying to get Congress approval for funding, one of the main things is, does it kill people? Because if it kills people, then you get more funding. You know what I mean? If your technology can help people do this, but it also has an ability to kill people, they're going to fund it. Because the military industrial complex, they're going to want to build it. They're going to want it. So over here, it just, if Hitler liked it, it's getting funded. So that also might have had something to do with perhaps their more advanced technological state. Make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's I was trying to, but so they had the rockets, the first ballistics missiles, the first cruise missiles, the first jet fighters, and even we had von Braun, the father of rockets. He even said in a quote when they're asking him, about thanking him, giving him credit and stuff, he says, "You can't give us all the credit. We had help from them," and he wouldn't really elaborate on just them. The other worldly people, I guess, the aliens, and I think that has to go back to maybe their the UFO crash site in 1936, the reverse engineering, or if they even had contact with an alien race, say if they in some capacity before we did, but for some reason the aliens wanted to help them. Now, if you go to the occult, I'm assuming they would think, oh, this is of course the aliens would want to help them. They're the Aryan race. They're the master race, if you will. So the aliens would definitely try to help them cleanse the planet of everything else. In their minds, they would think that they would never want to help the Allies. That's not pure. That's not a master race.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know, because there's been a lot of talk of Nazis and them meeting aliens. And it's the same thing that goes back to their lore of, aliens coming to Earth on the dumbass ice moon and creating a master race. But It, I don't know. I don't think that they would have helped them. I feel like they found the ship, they reverse engineered it, and that was it. I don't think they had extra help.
Maybe not. Maybe they didn't help him. But then again, like I was saying in the other episodes when I talk about ancient aliens or aliens on this planet in general, if they do live in the oceans or whatever, and they've been here since the beginning of man, and they've tried to help us through our infancy, it seems like alien sightings or aliens in general come around during times of war. And it seems to be the case where they don't want the planet to get destroyed, because if they're also living here and they've been in the oceans, they don't want to end up getting having to leave or getting decimated in the process. Especially during the Cold War, there's tons of sightings. It seems like when there's ever a threat of, well, they were working on nuclear weapons, but the threat of nuclear explosions and stuff, they seem to be out more, kind of like casing the area, trying to get intel, see what's going on. We've seen this back to when you go back to even ancient times with the Brahmana, right, in India, and the Sanskrit written that there was nuclear explosions and there was tons of aliens around.
Mm.
So, yeah.
I don't know, I was gonna say that's my thing. Like, if they didn't want, violence or nuclear anything happening, I feel like the aliens wouldn't help the Nazis because it was pretty clear what they were about. I mean, they didn't really hide their intentions very well.
Unless they just didn't understand, like how they're going to cleanse the earth and stop the war. I don't know. I mean, the Nazis would think maybe they told them the occult and they tricked them into it. And this is the master race. They got to cleanse the planet. Everyone else. You think the aliens could fall for something like that?
No. I feel like if you have the ability to travel light years and you have that genius technology, I don't think you would fall for a Nazi plot. I highly doubt it.
Not even with Hitler's public speaking abilities?
You know what? That's actually a fair point. He was very charismatic.
We got him. We got Josh. Right?
Oh, they got me. Oh, take my armband. No.
Got him. Yeah, he had a great way of speaking, right? He persuaded an entire country, most of the entire country, to turn on a group of people and basically slaughter them. Right? It takes a special kind of person, piece of shit, but a special kind of person, a special kind of ability to talk to people, to have 6 million Jews murdered and 11 million people in total murdered, right? To have people just throw them in camps and kill them.
I don't know.
That's not human nature. Like, humans are not set up to just do that unless they're persuaded and brainwashed into doing it.
Yeah, he had a way of speaking. I don't know if he could have accomplished that by being charismatic alone. There must have been something else. And this is just my theory. I mean, because no one is that cool. I'm not going to hang out with this dickhead because he speaks well and be like, you know what? You got a point. Let's go kill everybody. No. There's got to be something else going on. Maybe brainwashing, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we worked on MK Ultra later than this in the 50s, and apparently we stopped it in the 80s. I doubt it. I don't think you do. But maybe they had some kind of ability to realize how the human mind works and the brain works to persuade and brainwash individuals into doing things they're not really wanting to do against their will, but they don't realize it's against their will. You know what I mean? Just like MK Ultra. Mm. Yeah. So he could have been like that, and he could have done it to the aliens, right? Maybe.
Again, I don't know, because I don't think the aliens would fall for it. But if they did, then any signs of alien threats here on out, I am not even kind of afraid.
You don't think they showed him the Germania? They brought him to the Wewelsburg Castle, had him dance around the black sun?
No.
Probably didn't.
As fun as that would be, no.
Yeah. So, like we're gonna go with probably just reverse engineering a downed UFO to start. Right. This is how they began in extreme advancements in technology, especially of war equipment, military equipment. We even had, we discussed it, rocket engines. They were the first to do rocket, not just solid fuel, but liquid fuel rockets. Jet engines, jet propulsion to get these planes off the ground instead of using propellers, made them way faster and more maneuverable than any Allied fighter out in the war. And if they were able to get these in mass production, they definitely would have put a hurting on Allies. It would have made it a much longer war. Definitely would have made it a much longer war. Another piece of a technology that they had, and Hitler, because he's a cocky fuck, didn't want to go through with it, is the Typhoon. Now, Typhoon was a defensive weapon. It was the first guided surface-to-air missile to shoot down planes. They could have easily built a ton of these. They were easy to make, cheap to make, and Hitler said, well, this isn't a defensive war. So they didn't do it. Now, if they did do it in the way they wanted to do it, making millions early on in the war, when the tide started to turn, we were bombing the shit out of their industrial areas. This would have been a great weapon for them to have. Now, Hitler being, again, like I said, he's too cocky, and it turned on him. So the Typhoon, first surface-to-air missile, guided, got stuff like that. And we also got the Die Glocke, right? Now, a lot of people don't think this is this is like huge advance in technology if the thing is real. Apparently, there's blueprints for it. We never found the actual product, though, have we? So this thing, the Die Glocke, is the bell, right? In English. It was made of thick steel and lead, probably for radiation protection. 12 feet tall, 8 to 10 feet wide. Now, it worked by 4 rotating cylinders filled with Serum 525. Now, if you're wondering what Serum 525 is, it seems like it's some kind of uranium-235 mixed with red mercury. Whatever red mercury is. I'm not sure. Do you know what red mercury is? Because mercury's silver. Right?
Red mercury.
Some kind of Nazi mercury they have.
I mean, yeah. What? Now they're making up their own elements and shit. What the fuck is going on?
We don't know. They could have done something. They run high voltage through this, and it would create vortex compressions. Now, what they would say with these vortex compressions is that it would create a force against gravity. Now, a lot of people like to use anti-gravity. I don't like that term, anti-gravity, because gravity is always going to be there. And when I see anti-gravity, now we're going to kind of get a little into physics a little bit here, and what I would feel. Like a wave. Now, I would see it like a wave. So, picture a wave, sound wave. We'll make it a little bit easier to see. You got the gravity. Now, if you know how sometimes you get, we don't really get them here, but in the cities or something like that, you get a, I don't know if they call it white noise or black noise or pink noise, whatever it is. And you would mount these in the houses at certain spots, and it would cancel out outside sound. And that's because the wave would be 180'd of the sound wave. So then it cancels the wave out and you don't hear it anymore. But the wave is still there. So that's what I would believe this something is. It's not anti-gravity. It's reverse gravity, if you will, to cancel out the gravity. And then you can float. And that's what I think this shit does. Looking through their information on it, it just kind of cancels gravity out in the sense where it's still there, but it's an exact opposite force. So, and then when you get into gravity manipulation and stuff like that, Einstein's theory of relativity states that gravity, space-time, and all that, you can bend space-time, which can create time travel. Mm-hmm. Now, I believe it only works one way, and that's forward. I don't believe it's possible to go backwards in time.
Yeah, because we actually were just talking about this. If if it was possible to go backwards and they did have this technology, they easily would have gone back and changed how the war turned out. But if you could only go forward, it's easy to escape in time. Like,
Yeah.
so many people speculate Hans Kammler did, because he disappeared and he was, what, the head of research and development for the Nazis for their future tech?
Yeah. He's one of them. There's a bunch of guys that disappeared without a trace, which I guess we'll bring up in a little bit. But going back to the time manipulation thing with the Glocke, when you get close to a black hole, when you're on the, what do they call it? The, I'm drawing a blank here. But as you're getting close to a black hole, what we would observe is that time actually slows down. Because of the amount of gravity, it actually slows down time. Not even time can escape. And that's what you would see the differences in... Because outside that, everything's moving fast. But your time is slowed down. Your perspective's slowed down. That's how you time travel forward. You know what I mean? So for you, the time is slowed down. But everything else around that that's not being affected by that gravity is sped up. It basically sped up to your... compared to your perspective. So that's how you time travel. You know, 5 minutes goes by for you, 2 years goes by out there, and then you come out, and now you're 2 years ahead. That's where we're getting. That's what I think they were trying to work on here, to be honest. Something based off that. And I mean, this thing is literally. It was written, said that it killed scientists and stuff like that from radiation. They had to wear special suits. Even plants are dying from this thing. That's why it was encased in lead. So I don't know if the amount of radiation, I guess. I don't... Did you time travel, or did you just fry your brain and you think you time traveled at that point?
I feel like it would be like a situation in that movie The Fly, where they come out the other end and they're just like, their elbows coming out of their asshole, and it's just fried on the ground. But no, I kind of hope that they discovered time travel and that they escape to the future, mainly because then they would show up here where everybody hates Nazis, and they'd be like, oh, what the fuck.
Oh, and Event Horizon. The Event Horizon was what I was trying to talk about before.
Good
Yeah,
movie.
so when you get to the Event Horizon in these black holes, time basically almost stops for you. Now, if you can escape it, which it's very hard when you're in a black hole, obviously. That's where light can't even escape. That's where you get the time travel. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So when time slows down for you, you're traveling forward in time because it's stopping for you. You're not noticing anything. A minute goes by, but 2 years go by outside where you are, and then boom, you're 2 years in the future, and it only was 5 minutes. That's where this, like I was saying, that's where I think they were trying to go with this.
But then, so it could only go forward. We've established that, but then can it break off into another future?
I don't know if time tangents. I don't know if you'd have to ask someone who really studies this more. From my studying of it, it just seems like the shit's going the same way. You're just like in stasis almost. Everything slows down for you, and everything else just keeps continuing in normal, and then you come out, and it's 2 years in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like a time stream.
Yeah, I don't see tangents. That's getting... I don't think you can switch tangents. I mean, I think there's multiple, like, the multiverse, where there's infinite possibilities of infinite outcomes, and I just don't see us being able to jump between those type of things. I think you're just always on the same tangent. You just slow down your own time while everything else continues at the same pace, and you come out in the future, basically, because shit went by. You just, like, stopped in time in your zone, but everything else continued at the same speed.
I don't have nearly enough edibles for a time travel conversation in full. We will. I feel like we can do an episode on time travel one day.
I think we could too, especially. Yeah, I think we could do. I think we could.
It will cause an argument. I'm not gonna lie, because there's so many different theories on it, and they're all wrong. But
mine's right.
Yeah,
mine's the right one. What I've studied is the right one.
Oh God. I just want it to be Back to the Future rules. God damn it.
No, we can't go back. I don't think we can go back. Unless there's something we can do. I don't know. But I just don't see... I mean, there has been possibilities of negative time. I've seen...
Negative
with,
time.
Quantum... when you get quantum entanglement, and stuff like that, or even... I've seen them... What experiment they do? Where they manipulate a molecule or something, but the molecule that's going to be reacting to it actually reacts slightly before the manipulation happens. So they're saying that's like negative time. How is this possible? Like, but it's with fractions of a second. You know what I mean? I don't see that becoming a thing where you can travel backwards in time.
Yeah, and then of course you got to reference all the pictures online of like the 1920s, a guy in like sunglasses on his iPhone. Like, I love
Yeah.
the pictures.
Yeah, I mean, you got stuff like that too. So I don't know. There has to be something different than what we know now to be able to go backwards, because it doesn't seem possible.
And then would it be butterfly effect rules, where if you do something small, it affects the entire future? Or can you just do whatever the fuck you want and it's going to happen anyway?
I base it on what Stewie said in Family Guy. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
You know what? Okay, I like that.
One of those episodes that Stewie time travels in, and Brian's all upset. Oh, can I? He's like, no. Stewie was like, oh, you can't step on that ant, you'll change everything. He's like, really? And he's like, nah, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
That was also an episode with Nazis.
Oh yeah, yes.
And it's
Yes.
them with Mort trying to get to England, and the Nazi yells at them, it's like, "Get dog und baby und Art Garfunkel." And it's like,
Yes. Yeah. So I guess Seth MacFarlane's probably a Nazi sympathizer too.
Yeah.
No, probably.
So is every history class at every school.
Apparently. Yeah. So we got these. Yeah, getting back on here, the technology got the Diglok. It was a huge thing they found. I mean, they never found the actual thing, but they probably time traveled. That's why we didn't find it. Or the Soviets captured it, and they didn't want us to know about it, because there's been a bunch of shit here. So we got the Soviets came in from obviously the eastern part of Germany. Apparently, there was more bases on that side to develop this high-tech stuff than the sides we came in across. And they found prototypes. Wingless craft, like the Horton Hoe. This was a wingless freaking craft concept. They also had the Focke Wolf as a VTOL concept. And they had the AS-6 SAC. Now, this thing was like the first UFO. It was literally a UFO. It was turbine engines to pick it up and then rockets to propel it forward. It looked just like it was just a big dome. And these are probably the original prototypes for their UFOs. And they got found. They advanced on these. And this is proof that they were trying to work on basically what they call pancake craft, they were called during World War II when they were seen, to start making these things. It's probably not the only, because, I mean, the AS-6 was early on. This was early on in the war that they were working on this thing. It could have advanced past then. And the Soviets have talked about, when they were on their side, these underground bases they found in mountains and stuff like that, where they would find domed canopies and stuff. And they even said, some of the soldiers even said that they still hummed. They were humming. But they had no idea what they were.
It seems like a bunch of people were trying the UFO approach. There's always that video I come across of somebody who designed a UFO-style airplane, and they're trying to, like, drive it down a runway, and it's got, like, wheels sticking out the side. It looks ridiculous.
Yeah. You don't bring them down the runway. That's where the Nazis had, like I said, they had their they had fans, like big fan engines mounted for vertical takeoff, then propulsion forward with jets. they were huge on trying to make a VTOL, a vertical takeoff and landing craft. And they did even their missiles. So, like I said, the Germans, the Soviets found bunkers underground with these. And these bunkers were made without runways, just hangars. There'd be scorch marks on the ground and stuff. And the way these bunkers were set up, it was like they held donut-shaped or pancake-shaped craft. The way they're set up to hold. They had arms that would come out to hold these things. And like I was saying, they said they found dome-shaped canopies and stuff. They were humming. And then they found in one of the places, one of these pancake craft, they call them, dismantled, as if they were trying to reverse engineer it, taken apart on shelves and stuff. Now, they talk about how, nothing really came of it. The Soviets never gave us anything. And listen, they were our quote-unquote ally in World War II. Don't pretend like they liked us. We did not like them. They didn't like us. There is no shot in hell that if they found something advanced before we did, they would let us know about it. That was going back to Soviet Union to be reverse engineered again to try to help them out over us. And we know we didn't like each other because what did Churchill? He had the Operation Unthinkable. He wanted to basically, as soon as Germany gave up and the Japanese gave up, to continue east and take out the Soviet Union. He wanted to do that. We were thinking about doing that. And we probably could have, but it would have been unpopular. Because, we had the nuclear bombs by then, before they did. But we didn't do it. But it was a thought. So we definitely did not like each other. We never would have shared any information we got back to the Soviets. No shot.
No, definitely not. But yeah, the pancake craft thing. I wish. I don't know. I wish something would have came of it. Not obviously for the Nazis, but I wish we were able to develop something like that. It would be so much fun to just see.
It's Area 51.
Well, but even up to now, 2025, fucking make it commercial use, like the fucking Jetsons. They were flying around in UFOs. That was fun.
We can't even drive cars, dude. Every time I go anywhere now for work, people are backing up on the freaking parkway. They miss their exit. They back up down the shoulder. They're going to kill themselves. It's stupidity. You run flying around in a fucking UFO.
It's a valid point. No,
there'd be fucking bloodshed everywhere.
Bro, fucking New Jersey drivers are the worst. They're the fucking worst.
I don't know. I think Massachusetts is probably the worst.
Really?
Dude, they're bad. Connecticut drive. I don't know, dude. Everyone's bad, but then there's bad. You know what I mean? At least New Jersey, when they're in the left lane, they're moving. You get in Massachusetts, they get out in the left lane, they do 40 miles an hour, they fuck everything up. Forget it. Dude, there'll be another episode of how bad Massachusetts and Connecticut drivers are.
Oh, New York is bad too, but the city's always been bad. Me and one of our friends were in an Uber in Midtown, and we were just driving along, and this little kid's going across the street, and the driver just flies right in front of him, and the kid falls back onto the curb. And we're like, dude, you almost hit that kid. He's like, nah, he knew it wasn't his turn to go. And he was just so nonchalant. I'm like, okay, well, so alive in this city.
But going back to talking about the aliens and if the aliens helped, and I was like, I don't know, maybe, did he talk him into them? What could the Foo Fighters have been then during this time in the late 1944 and early 1945 when we had Allied pilots and bombers leaving, coming up from Italy, flying bombing runs, and then seeing these bright lights, these circular craft, almost like orbs, floating next to them in orange and silver colors, and then take off in rapid speed and move in different ways that would have been impossible for any of our craft to do at the time. Now, are they helping the Nazis? They're just watching to see what's going on? Because they never attacked. They didn't engage in anything. They were just always observing, all the pilots would say. And what would happen is these pilots would land and talk about it, and their commanding officer would tell them, stop talking about it. Don't talk about it again. And they just go into file with all the other ones that have seen it. And they would try to keep it on the hush hush. Did the upper people in the military, of the U.S. military or the Allied militaries, know what these things were and they didn't want it getting out? Did they know what was going on with that? Did they not know what was going on? They didn't want to get out? Or were they afraid of it and didn't want public panic? Because obviously something was there. And I'm sick and tired of every time these get brought up, everyone says they're lying or they don't know what the fuck they're saying. And again, these are like high quality pilots. They know what's going on, just like in the UFO crash, in the Rendlesham UFO crash. The guy knew what all of our prototype planes look like. They sent him out there. He was sent out to debunk it, and he ended up kind of saying, oh shit, something's here. These pilots, I don't see them mistaking anything for a UFO. They're saying like, oh, it was different lighting. I was reading something about, it was playing tricks on their mind. I mean, how many hours of flights have these pilots done to even get to where they are, to be a World War II bomber pilot? And you're telling me they never seen light before, playing tricks on their mind? You know what I mean? So something's definitely out there. The Foo Fighters were definitely going on.
Well, just to go back on the Rendlesham one, the guy was like, he knew his shit, and they just tried to tell him like, no, you're mistaking it for a lighthouse.
A lighthouse?
That pissed
That's what
me
I'm
off.
saying. That's what I'm saying. They always try to, when it comes to this stuff, they always tell you you're a fucking moron.
They basically call you dumb as shit. They chalk it up to exhaustion a lot of the time. They're like, oh, yeah, they were working too hard, so they didn't know what they were looking at. It's like, no, it's not the case. pretty easy. You're not falling asleep while piloting an aircraft. I'm sorry, you're pretty wide awake for that.
Exactly, but every time when it comes to something like this, they're told they're wrong, and it makes no sense to me. Take their word for it for once. Check it out. They don't want to do it. Unless they do, but they just don't want it getting out. Don't want anyone else to know about it. Now, did you think the Foo Fighters, what they like to call them back then, these glowing orbs or UFO things, do you think that was Nazi, or do you think that was alien?
I want to say alien because of it was just observing.
They were just observing. So, like, if it was Nazi, even if it was from a secret base, they probably would have engaged, right?
Yeah, because the Nazis were, well, this isn't new news, but they were a violent bunch.
And they were in total war at that point, yeah.
Yeah, they were all on the offense, as you said earlier. They were not about recon. They were like, go, 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 kill, kill, kill. So if they had these then, I mean, there would have been an attack if they had enough of them. But if, they didn't, these ones, the Foo Fighters didn't do anything, I feel like that would be more alien just observing.
Just observing. Yeah, maybe. Could possibly be. But, yeah, so they're seeing these things, and I just don't understand why every single person that they tell basically says you're a fucking lying sack of shit. It annoys me. You don't trust any of your own pilots. If they mention something, I'm assuming, especially if they've been in the military for a while, they're seasoned. It probably took a lot to even say it because they're going to think I'm nuts. But I'm going to say it anyway. There should be some kind of merit behind that. Trust your guys. You know what I mean?
Then it's all about the hush-hush. But then how high up does that go? I mean, we're talking about, what, the 30s and 40s? And back then they had this crazy task force for keeping aliens on the down low. Like, how long did they know about them? That they're basically anyone in the military who talks about it, they're just moving them or erasing them from the situation. Signing
non-disclosures like in the Rendlesham.
Yeah. Some
I
cases throwing them in jail. Like,
throw them in jail.
It's ridiculous. That's something that always pissed me off about the military and alien situation is how hush-hush it is and how very quickly they can just erase you for talking about it.
Absolutely. And it could have been aliens. I mean, it could have been, and like I said, we Von Braun even said that we had help. All right. So then, all these Foo Fighters after the war, we did Operation Paperclip. Right, one of the scientists actually came to New Jersey. He was in Princeton for a while, but a lot of these scientists went to a base that wasn't created yet, out in Nevada, where Area 51 started. So were they just rocket scientists, or were they scientists and experts in something a little bit more advanced? You know what I mean? A little bit out of this world. Because it's kind of odd, they go out there to Area 51 in an area, and they make this Area 51, and it becomes known for, the alien capital of the United States.
I don't think they were rocket scientists. I think they were scientists that just happen to have rockets. if that makes any sense. It does in my brain, but what I mean.
Just happen to have, but they were more, alien?
They're
UFO?
Yeah. More on the future tech.
Yeah, more on the rockets was old school, old news to them. Outdated nonsense for what they have, and then we still don't have it out yet, but we're using the technology to this day because still there's still tons of UFO sightings. There's whistleblowers all in the Navy, in the Air Force, about them flying and then seeing these things flying in the air with them, right? Picks them up on the radar, they're dancing freaking, and the radar data shows like impossible movements, like gravity defying movements. And then sometimes even, in some cases, they even talk about them dipping off into the ocean, directly into the water.
Yeah, that's actually what I was about to just say. Notice that every time there's a whistleblower from the military, they're either in the Air Force or the Navy. You never really hear it from the Army or the Marines. But Navy, that means there's something in the oceans. Air Force, obviously, there's UFOs in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It feels like there's too much information to just ignore at this point and say, constantly. Like, no, it's not true. None of it's true.
Constantly. And it fits in with what I believe that the bases, these alien bases being under the oceans, in the oceans, because, we've mapped like nothing in terms of actually seeing the ocean floor. We have such a minuscule percentage of it mapped on our own planet. We're focused on space, but we really don't know what lies behind in the ocean floors. Barely anything. Yeah. So they could be down there. 100% could be down there. Or there's a reason we're not saying what's on the ocean floor. Oh yeah, we didn't map any of this. We're more worried about space, even though we can check out the ocean floors. Maybe there's a reason behind that. Maybe we do, like upper government and stuff like that knows they're there, and then we can't talk about it.
It just pisses me off. I love the topic, but it makes me so angry.
Yeah. And the Nazis had the technology. It seems like they had harnessed some kind of technology with it, and it kind of got out more public. But apparently, a lot of people around these testing bases that tested UFOs and high-tech equipment like that have said strange lights, humming noises, many accounts of it. I was looking through these residents of the area. It's just civilians that lived in Germany at the time. They'd be woken up by bright lights at night. They said they would hear humming all the time, strange noises coming, rapid descending lights through the sky. Mm. And if they were able to do it, they're going to have, that's going to be something they hide to the end. They're not going to let anyone fucking get a hold of it. And if they were losing, I feel like that's something that if they weren't moved somewhere else secure, they would destroy it.
Now, here's my one thing about Nazis having UFOs. They were very showboaty. You could tell by their uniforms. They like people looking at them.
Or their giant tank that never did anything. Fucking 80-foot tall tank they had.
Big old hunk of shit. But I feel like if they had, like, the UFO thing down, they would, I don't know, they would show the public in Germany, like, hey, this is what we got. This is why we're the best. Yeah.
This is something I think they didn't want out. I think this was going to be if they could get enough of them out to save the war and turn it in their favor, they didn't want anyone to know about it until it was attacking the Allies. I think that's why this was like something they were holding on to, keeping it close to the chest, because they didn't want any type of information getting leaked out on how to attack it or defend against it. And they just ran out of time and resources. I think the resources were the big thing. And it's actually a good segue into my next little what I wanted to talk about. Resource-starved Germany at this time, back when you get to closer to the end of the war, and what they started making to make up for it. One would be the Natter. There was the BA-349 rocket interceptor, was what it was, originally called, or the Natter, or the Viper, they called it too. This thing was made of wood. So, you can see it when, like I say, the bombing run started taking a toll. They were running out of oil, fuel, and stuff like that. So they had to work on stuff that was lighter, so it was more fuel efficient, so they didn't have to use as much fuel. And something that they didn't need to use as much steel, metal for. They needed different alloys for, the tanks themselves, or weapons and bullets and such. So they tried to turn to wood for flying craft. So this thing did have some steel around the cockpit to protect the pilot, if you want to call him a pilot. So this thing was an interceptor. It was launched up to take out bombers. So it would stand straight up on a ramp, vertical to the ground. The pilot would get in it, and it would be launched from the ground. It would reach so many Gs on the way up, it would actually make the pilots black out on the way. So to combat this, it was actually controlled from the ground via remote control up until 10,000 meters in the air. Then you better wake the fuck up. The pilot better be awake by then. No longer being blacked out from the Gs. You better wake up. The pilot then would take over and aim this fighter, or this rocket, and launch 2 rockets off of it at whatever plane is around. So it would take the plane out, and at this point, the thing is useless. It can't land. It doesn't have landing gear. You would have to slide the canopy and eject. And when you would eject, the thing would break into 2. The fuselage and the rest of it would break into 2. And you would parachute down with the pieces, and then they would try to reuse some of the pieces to make another one. This was the whole idea of this thing. Now, it was made of wood. And it would reach speeds, astronomical speeds, to be honest. Like, enough Gs to knock you out on the way up. And it's made of basically plywood.
What you told me about this yesterday, I think, and immediately it reminded me of, do you ever see the Red Bull contest where people build their own planes and they push them off the side of the boat and try to get it to fly? But people build ridiculous ones. It's like a shopping cart with a fucking propeller on it. That's what this reminded me of.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines like the little carts or cars you make of wood and you go down the hill. But yeah, that too. Yeah, like the Derby or whatever they call it.
Pinewood Derby.
So, yeah. So basically they were testing these things without a pilot for a while, just to get them, see how they do. Then they decided they needed to do it. Like, the SS was like, you need to do a live test with this thing. We're running out of time. You need to do a live test so we can put this in mass production, make sure it works, and we can start sending them out. So we had a guy named, a test pilot named Lothar Sieber. He was a captain in the Luftwaffe. And something happened, some kind of drunken stoop, what have you, a belligerent moment. Well, he was drunk. He was actually demoted from captain to private first class. And it upset him, apparently. He was upset about it. He was 22 years old, and he was engaged to be married. And the SS came to him about this prototype, and they said, hey, listen, we need someone to test it for the first time with a person in it. If you test it, we will give you back your rank in the Luftwaffe as pilot, captain, and everything else. His fiancée did not want him to do it. She said, no, I don't want you to do it. But he wanted the rank. It was big. I guess, these Nazis were so brainwashed. They can't let the Fuhrer down. So the day before he tests it, he writes his last will and testament, gives all his earthly goods to his fiancée, and has her promise if he dies, she'll take his last name. Next day comes, he gets in the thing. You know, they launch him up there, he blacks out or whatever. 10,000 meters, no longer being controlled by the ground with the radio control, and he's supposed to launch the canopy. Nothing happens. He doesn't launch the canopy. Now, they don't know if the canopy failed or he was still blacked out. But at any rate, he slammed into the ground at like freaking 1,000 kilometers an hour and died. So that was the first test of this thing. They did put him into use, though. Even though that went miserably. Apparently some were successful. And these things were made for basically 18, 19-year-olds just to get in and take down as many bombers as they could and try to come back to Earth. Because at this point, we're talking about total war. I mean, kids, if you could hold a weapon at this point in, 1945, you're going to shoot. You're going to be used to try to kill as many allies as you can. And they were trying to build stuff like this just to get as many people. It didn't matter if they were even trained pilots anymore, to get them in the air and try to take out these bombers, because America was building these planes in such a great pace due to the fact that obviously we weren't being touched. The mainland USA was not being affected by war in any way. We could produce what we needed to produce, unlike the UK and all them, because they were just being bombed relentlessly. Germany, the same thing. So we were producing such vast amounts of fighters and bombers that the Germans needed something. So they came up with this plywood nonsense. There's that, and there's another one that's made of wood called the Henkel HE. It was a fighter made of wood as well, with a jet engine on it. You just strap a jet engine to, a fucking piece of plywood, and you go flying off into the air. That's how desperate they got towards the end of the war, though. You know what I mean? Obviously, the UFOs weren't working out because they didn't have the resources to build these UFOs in mass, anyway. Or maybe they were, but not getting them to Germany in time. And they were building these plywood fucking planes just to get something going, just to help a little bit. And that's my that's what I call the failed tech part of this episode. That's technology that can be left and not brought to the future.
Yeah, just the fucking, it's just a childish airplane. I feel like they found a drawing of like a box with wings on some construction paper that like one of the Nazis' sons drew, and they're like, "Oh, this is genius."
You wouldn't try to fly nothing?
No. I'd rather walk. The fucking ridiculous.
You wouldn't try to get launched straight in the air, black out, have your guys down on the ground, radio control you, and then at 10,000 meters you better be awake?
No, I'd rather black out on the ground, sitting in a chair.
Black out from what?
Don't worry about it. Yeah, so we can't call us sympathizers because we're sitting here telling people that these are some of the dumbest fucking people.
Apparently, yeah. I know. Hey, tell me. I freaking the one guy. I had to block the one guy because he just literally wouldn't stop, and I would just not answer him, and I had to block him. So there's that. Yeah, just apparently we're sympathizers. But when we get past this part with the nonsense of tech, you got to think of how much, besides that nonsense, how actually advanced they were, besides the fact that they were running out of resources. I don't think this was something they thought was a good idea. I think they thought it was a necessity because they needed to be able to fight and they didn't have the resources. Because, I mean, they had such great reach on the planet to begin with. Talking about going all the way down to Antarctica. So it's not like they thought that. I don't think any of them thought it was a good idea. I think they just thought it was a necessity. We just need to get something out because we're losing this war, and they weren't going to surrender. There's no way they were surrendering unless they absolutely were just completely overrun, which eventually that happened. But Antarctica, yeah, they went down there, right? And they started going down there before the war even started. Yeah,
they went down there because, I mean, before the war even started, Hitler saw what was coming, and he's like, we're probably going to lose some supply chains. and things like
Some people
that.
might be mad at us.
Some people might be a little steamed that we kill a bunch of them, but yeah, we love our margarine, he said to himself in the mirror. So yeah, they went down there and to set up whaling ports because they wanted whale oil to make margarine, which is a true thing I read and laughed at.
So they were the second largest importer of margarine, and they got it from Norwegia. The Norwegians.
Norway.
From Norway. They got it from the Norwegians in Norway. Now, I don't think they were worried about trade routes getting either severed by allied, ships, or just Norway saying, fuck it, we're not sending you any fucking margarine anymore. So yeah, they head down to Antarctica. What am I saying? God. To, again, like you were saying, to secure whaling. They set up whaling outposts down there. They also found this, they discovered for the first time, no one's discovered this mountain range. Right? Mm-hmm. It's in, this was in, what the fuck was that place called? It was a the Queen Maudlin. Down there off the about 200 miles inland from the shore. Coordinates are 71 to 75 degrees north by 0 to 12 degrees east. Somewhere in that area. So they had this huge mountain range they found, and they set up shop down there. They claimed the land by flying over it and dropping boxes of swastikas all over the ground.
Such a dumb thing to do.
So some animals were probably getting railed by fucking flying swastikas. The only thing I'm worried about, like the penguins, dude. Like, I was hoping no penguins were injured by their nonsense, because that would just make me hate them even more, even though apparently I'm a quote-unquote sympathizer. I would hate them even more if penguins are getting murdered in mass because of flying swastikas through the air to mark their alleged territory down there.
Yeah, I completely agree.
But now to think about it, well, I was asking AI and I was asking anyone, could the Nazis have set up a base down there, a legit base, a working base? Now, what I've been told several times by AI and other people who know World War II and the Nazis, no, because the ships they went down there on to establish the whaling front did not carry heavy equipment or construction equipment or anything like that, not enough supplies to build it. I was like, all right, so that's fine, if that's what you think. And then maybe they didn't go on, maybe nothing went on the ship. But what about the weather station the Nazis built in the Arctic Circle? Now, this weather station was not discovered till after the war. No one knew they built it. No one knew they were building it. And that's because they brought everything by U-boat, underneath every other thing undetected, to this island in the Arctic Circle and built the weather station. The weather station up there. And the Allies kind of actually, I don't know why they were just stupid or they didn't care about it. They were actually receiving or intercepting signals from this northern area, and they just ignored it. They didn't care about it at all. They were more focused on Europe. And they would have found out what was up there earlier if they didn't freaking ignore these signals. But the U-boats brought everything. Why couldn't U-boats bring a bunch of stuff to Antarctica as well? And I think it's 100% possible that they could have brought a bunch of U-boats down there and started offloading supplies and equipment to build a base, and maybe even in this mountain range.
There's something else.
Something else.
Well, they didn't just go down for margarine, which is such a dumb sentence. But yeah, they also went down on the SS Schwabenlad on a secret mission to Antarctica. This is something I've read, which now we're crossing into could be bullshit, could be real. Makes for an interesting tale either way. But they went down there carrying not only scientists, but members of the Thule Society, which we talked about last time. And they believed there's the ancient race of Aryans that came down on the ice moon actually didn't die when the second one came down. They retracted into the hollow earth. And
Oh, the Hollow Earth.
yeah, and the Thule Society believes that the entrance to the hollow earth was in Antarctica, and their plan was to go and make contact with the ancient race of Aryans and gain their trust and technology, and you know, become the actual master race. And this is one of the dumbest things I've ever read. But yeah, they they found a place like they were saying. It was hundreds of miles inland with no ice. There was warm water because there was a geothermal vent, and that's where they built their base, which was known as Base 211.
Yep.
And from what I read, it was the size of a small city, so it was like fucking massive.
Now, before you get into that, you want to hear something even stupider about that weather station? Why it got shut down?
Yes.
So before we get into that, I just wanted to, because I thought this was ridiculous, and it was documented apparently when they found that the Soviets actually found this after the war. They found this base, and it was empty. And if you want to know why it was empty, it's because on May 30th, 1944, the cook at this weather station, Warner Blankenberg, did the most awful, dumbest thing I could have think of. He killed a polar bear, okay? Well, he minced the meat up and never cooked it. He forgot to cook the meat and served it to the crew over several days. Well, what happens next is that the meat was tainted with a virus, and the whole crew came down with severe food poisoning where they couldn't stop vomiting for days. Now, word got back to the mainland Germany that these guys were basically dying up there, and they sent a plane to emergency evac them. Well, the plane crashed, so they had to send a second one. But so they sent the second plane to emergency evac these people, and then they never restocked personnel in the weather station again because the war was kind of not looking good. So that's another gripe I have with fucking. You get a chef to kill a polar bear and then not cook the meat. You know what I mean? Like, cook the fucking meat.
How do you not know it's not cooked?
He just minced it up and he served it to the crew over the next couple of days, and they all fucking came terribly ill because they just it was tainted. I don't know, but at any rate, that's the stupidity of it all. Now, if anyone's wondering why they built the weather station in the Arctic, it was actually pretty smart. This part. So they just keep flip-flopping around if they're smart or not. Smooth brain one day, wrinkles the next. They built the weather station up there to see about Arctic weather storms coming through, and then they would use that to their advantage when fighting the Soviets. If a storm was going to be coming through, they would know when it's going to land. They would force the Soviets into an offensive to be into a storm, and then they would counter if there's a break in the storm. They would use that to their advantage to launch a surprise counterattack in between storm cells. So it was actually pretty, smart of them to go up there, secretly build this thing. But then they send some ass who doesn't know how to, apparently their chef, who gives them raw polar bear meat, tainted raw polar bear meat that was full of bacteria or whatever, and it just basically almost killed the entire fucking crew up there. And they had to be emergency evac. The first plane crashed into the island, and the second plane landed and took care of them.
Just fucking outstanding.
So there's that. Yeah.
Oh my god, I love it. That's one of my favorite stories ever now. Oh goddamn. But yeah, I had mentioned the Nazis going to Antarctica thing because that happened back in 1938. I mentioned that to mention Operation High Jump, which took place in 1946, where Admiral Richard E. Byrd, a highly decorated member
extremely
of the
well.
Yeah, he was right in the head, so can't call him bullshit. Led a task force to Antarctica because they heard, talks of Nazis being there. So they went to see what the hell was going on, and they disguised it by saying it was for scientific research, but we all know why they went.
Yeah, you wouldn't send a military force for scientific research. You would send a scientific community to a area like that because it's out of war zone.
Yeah. There's no reason to go there with guns, but they went with guns. Um, and another interesting thing to note is before even getting there, they were getting reports of lights in the sky and UFO type sightings all over Antarctica. Which why would they? Why? Unless Nazis had UFOs. Um,
That's where
the
the UFOs went, the Foo Fighters.
the Foo Fighters. Um, yeah, they went there. The whole trip was meant to be 8 months, and they left in was it 8 weeks?
They only were there 8 weeks. They left after they had some plane crashes, right? Some
They
people lost. People
well,
died.
so a lot of people died. There was a lot of reports of them seeing these UFOs when they were there, and even being attacked by lights in the sky. And they were saying that they saw lights come out of the water and fly up at a 45-degree angle, which then flew directly at their ships. And they opened fire on the crafts, and it did nothing. Like they were unloading on these things, and absolutely nothing happened. And that happened a lot. And then there was one story from, Admiral Byrd that this is the one that everyone will call bullshit, and could absolutely see why. But he was on a plane, a very short range plane, doing recon over the area, which when they got there, they named it Little America, which is just so cute. Um, but yeah, he was on a short range plane, which is very important to note. And he disappeared for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Nobody could get in touch with him on the radio. Nobody saw anything. He was just gone. But according to him, in a diary that he had given his son right before he died, he said that he was flying and he saw a mountain range that he wasn't familiarized with, and he flew just over it. And when he did that, he came across a huge, beautiful, green, warm place with a big river running down the middle and trees to his right. And he's like, this shouldn't be here. Like, what the fuck? It's all meant to be ice. Why is this like a beautiful green oasis? And then he saw some animals grazing, and he flew a little lower to get a closer look, and he's like, that's not right. It's a fucking woolly mammoth. Like, that's fucking odd. And then he looks farther in the distance, and he sees what he described as a huge glowing city, like a futuristic looking city. So he's flying, and slowly he starts to lose control of the plane. Nothing he does works. Even the propellers just stop spinning at one point, but the plane's not going down. It's just continuing to fly. And that's when two UFOs fly up alongside of him, and he gets a closer look, and he sees giant swastikas on the sides. And then a voice comes over the radio basically saying, welcome, no need to panic, you'll be landing shortly. Which, again, this is such a ridiculous story. I would love for it to be true. But
It is true.
yeah, it's all true. He is eventually grounded, and he's now in this futuristic style city where he's brought underground to meet the alien race, which he described as tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed beings. So giant Nazis. And they basically called themselves the Ariani. And then he spoke to the one in charge, apparently, and he was like, yeah, we've been here for a long time. Our whole thing is observing. We wanted to make contact so many times, but every time we do, your militaries just shoot at us, which,
That seems right.
checks out. Yeah. So he's like, basically, I want to send you back, with the message that we come in peace and all of that. So then he gets back in the plane. They let him go. The plane's flying on its own still. And once he passes that mountain range, the voice comes over the radio again saying, you have control of the plane once again. Auf Wiedersehen. And that was it. And then he came back and basically told everybody, and they were like, you're a fucking idiot. But
why would he make it up?
Yeah, exactly. Why would he make it up? But also, the interesting thing, it's a short-range plane, which, if all of this was bullshit, where did he go for 3 hours? The plane never would have lasted that long in the air.
No. And he couldn't land it.
Yeah, you can't land in fucking ice.
Yeah. So he went somewhere. Definitely went somewhere. And this could have been, they were right the whole time. The Nazi cult was right. They were looking in the wrong place. They were looking in Tibet for Atlantis, but Atlantis was actually in Antarctica.
Yeah.
And that's maybe where these Nazis went. Because we do have some anomalies, right, after the war. And after the war ended and everything, we had 2 U-boats show up in Argentina to begin with. We had U-530 and U-977 show up in Argentina with some personnel on board who were interrogated and let go. And we also have officers that went missing, right? We had Heinrich Mueller. He was the chief of the Gestapo. Never gone without a trace. No idea where he went. We had an SS captain and Brumner. He disappeared. We had Otto von Wachter, SS Brigadier Führer. He basically ran the ghettos in Germany. No idea where he went. They have no trace of him, death, or anything. We had Horst Weidner. He managed the bureaucracy behind records for the deaths of Jews. I think he did like 350,000 records for Jew deaths. Where'd all these people go? You know what I mean? U-boats easily could have traversed undetected, especially the newer ones they had, the Electro ones, the Electro boot, I think they call them, the second generation U-boat with much further range. They were silent. They could have got them down to the Antarctica with these people on them to the secret city. Maybe Hitler went down there too, because I find it interesting that Russia took a skull fragment from where Hitler allegedly committed suicide. They said it was Hitler the whole time. Just recently, I believe it was 2008, maybe 2000, early 2000s, we'll say. They finally tried to do a DNA test on this skull fragment they found. Russia had it in their possession this whole time. Once they did the DNA testing, it came back to be a 40 to 45-year-old woman, the skull fragment. So obviously that's not Hitler, because at the time I believe Hitler was in his mid to late 50s during World War II, right? He was born in 1896. So I think it was 1896. So that's obviously not Hitler's skull fragment. They also have a jawbone, but they refuse to do DNA testing on it. They just say it's his, confirmed, but they never do DNA testing on it. So perhaps Hitler didn't commit suicide after all. Did Hitler go to this Antarctic area in a U-boat with these other officers? Could he have gone to Argentina after that? Was it too cold in Antarctica? He didn't like it? Because we can do a whole episode on Hitler's escape to Argentina, because there is so much stuff. I don't know if you know about that, Josh, but there are so many eyewitness accounts and tunnels between different buildings and stuff, and people saying, oh, I saw Hitler in like the 50s. I saw a whole thing about it.
I would love to do more on that because it is an interesting topic. I need to read up more on it. But yeah, I would love to talk about that.
So why won't they do a DNA test on that jawbone?
Not only that, well, yeah, what the it's such a, god damn it. It's such an important thing to just brush over and be like, nah, it's him. We're sure
It's
of it.
his. They said the fucking skull fragment was his until they did the DNA test on it, and they found out it was from some 40-year-old woman. And then they turn around. It might have been his wife. Maybe was she? I don't know if she was that much younger than him. The girl, the woman he married like 2 days before or the day before. But then they find out that doesn't match, and they just refuse to do the DNA on the jaw because they're afraid it's going to be from the woman, probably. So, did he escape down there with all this other nonsense? All these U-boats? I mean, we talked about how they built a whole fucking weather station undetected until after the war by sending stuff to U-boat. Who's to say they couldn't do the same thing? It could have been in this mountain range. I mean, you're talking about Atlantis being behind the mountains. I mean, we could have had the full-on Atlantis, or we could just have the Nazis built a base in the mountains. Because what I heard about Operation High Jump, besides what you were talking about, was that apparently they did a frontal assault on this Nazi base in the mountains, and they got lit up, destroyed, and that's why they left abruptly after only 8 weeks instead of 8 months. They thought it was going to be some 8-month mission to take care of it. And then they'd leave within 8 weeks. You know what I mean? And then you have, on top of it, you have Operation Artemis. Was it called Artemis? Where they launched those nukes in 1958 in the Antarctic area. And there's speculation behind that those nuclear explosions, those 3 nukes that were detonated at high altitudes, was to just try to destroy this Nazi stronghold in Antarctica. But it's used as testing. They wanted to test the effects of high altitude nuclear weapons. Just happened to be down there, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't really want to do that. I don't want to melt all that ice and stuff, but I mean, that's what they were trying to do down there.
Yeah, it's also worth mentioning that right after the war, as these Nazis were escaping to like Argentina and South America area, that is right around the time there was hundreds of reported sightings of UFOs in that area.
Yes. It was a huge thing. No one's seen freaking UFOs before. And then suddenly, Nazis are escaping to South America. We already talked about, these sightings in Europe. It was huge over Germany, Italy, Austria, that area, where the Nazis are around. Then you stop seeing them as much, and then you start seeing them in the Argentina, South America area, and Antarctica, where allegedly these Nazis could have moved to escape prosecution for their war crimes. Yeah. Just a weird coincidence.
Yeah, a little bit. But there's so much we could do on this topic. But yeah, I fear if we continue, we're just going to be sympathizers.
I'll just brush on maybe there's even a possibility of a moon base. We could actually do an episode maybe on the moon itself. We might take a break and come back to it because we don't want to be too sympathizing to these. But the moon base, they're trying to say maybe the Glocke went to the moon, and that's where it went. It didn't time travel, but they used their anti-gravity or counteracted gravity with this bell and actually went to the moon and landed on the dark side of the moon. They were the first ones on the moon, and they established a base up there to get away because the Earth, in their words, was no longer pure enough to have the Aryan race. So they wanted to go to a clean slate, go to the moon, set up the Aryan race, build back up, and wait for the Earth to shed themselves of the impurities, and then come back to the Earth to take it over later on. I guess we can do an episode on that at some point. To kind of finish that off, to give you a quote from the Apollo 11 missions to the moon when we went up there. They were supposed to do, Armstrong was supposed to say, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, but there was a bunch of audio interference in that transmission, right? Static bursts and stuff like that. And then you can hear Buzz Aldrin in the back state, "We are not alone up here. and then it's scrubbed from all transcripts and never brought up again. And when he's asked about saying this, he never confirms or denies it. He doesn't say, "I never said that." So, what does that tell you? You know, it could have been a giant something up there, and they just hide it. They don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, moon Nazis.
So the moon Nazis. Well, let's leave you with them. Yeah. So, like I said, guys, I mean, a lot of stuff going on here. We're not Nazi synthesizers for the 5th time, the 6th time, 7th time, whatever we talk about. I don't want to be associated with them. It's just they're a very interesting group of people, if you will. If you can even call them people, to be honest. They made a lot of mistakes, silly stuff, stupid stuff. But without them, we would not be where we are today technologically. We would never have made it to the moon. NASA would not be what it is, because NASA was really founded on their rocket scientists. Mm-hmm. So, even though they're a piece of shit, it's a good idea to get to know what they brought to the table, you know, in terms of technological advancements.
Yeah, and dropping swastikas from the air.
Yeah. They didn't invent Ovaltine, so at least we have that.
Yeah, I'm afraid if they had the Ovaltine, we would have lost the war.
Yeah, that might have been hard to deal with. UFOs and Ovaltine. They probably could have used the Ovaltine as a rocket propulsion system. All that vitamins and minerals probably could have produced better results with the wooden craft. You know what I mean? They'd probably been more effective. Especially if the pilot took Ovaltine. If he drank a bunch of Ovaltine, he was chock full of Ovaltine, he probably wouldn't have blacked out on the way up. He would have been more buff and would have been able to handle those G-forces to finish off the test and actually still be alive and marry his gal.
Marry his gal, yeah. But also, if they used Ovaltine as a propulsion, I don't think that rocket would ever come down.
It would have made it to the moon. It would have succeeded in what they needed to do. He might have been dead because it wasn't airtight or anything, but he probably would have made it up there.
Yeah. Well.
All right, guys. If you liked our little Nazi segment we had here, comment, like. If you're listening to us and you don't follow us on Spotify, give us a follow. Follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook. We're also on Apple Podcasts. If you're listening to us over there, give us a rating. If you're on Spotify, please give us a rating. I think only like less than 10% of our followers have rated us. It's insane. So if you haven't rated us, please give us a rate. It'll help us with our algorithm. We've hit 131 followers on Spotify. So I was gonna say 130, but then yesterday we added another one, so it was only 131. But it's a good number, right? Nice round. All right. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for following us. If you're listening and not following us, please give us a follow. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Bye, kids.